Edmonton and LA because I think that series is going to be, honestly, probably the most
I
electric out
mean,
of the
game
four.
one was insane.
Welcome to the Check It From Behind podcast. Today is April 22nd, 2025. I'm your host, Zach, as always, joined by my co-host, Preston. On today's episode, we have a lot to go over. The NHL Playoffs got off to a crazy start, including Monday Mayhem, and also some interesting comments from
Say the least.
Rutherford at a press conference on Sunday for the Canucks, and also Lou Lamoriello is out as GM for the Islanders.
So I kind of just want to get right into the Canucks thing. So
Yeah.
for those of you that missed it, yesterday, over time of recording on the 21st, Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin gave their end of season media availability. You know, typical, every team does that at the end of the year, just get some questions for the GM. And first thing, they were asked about Rick Tocchet. His contract is expiring. And Jim Rutherford has stated that they had a team option to extend the contract for a year. They said they will not be exercising that contract. They'd rather just sign him to a long-term extension. The offer is on the table, and it's in Rick Tocchet's hands about whether he just wants to continue to coach there or not. Mm-hmm. And based on the other thing Jim Rutherford said, he might not want to. I don't know what the question was. I don't know how Quinn Hughes got brought up. I'm not sure because maybe someone because there were some comments earlier in the season about how he didn't want to be part of a rebuild. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming that got brought up in that.
Yeah.
And Jim Rutherford said one of the craziest things I've ever heard in a press conference where he pretty much just said it's like we're either getting Jack Hughes and Luke Hughes from New Jersey or we're trading Quinn to New Jersey. That's he said. It's not about. This is the exact quote. It may not boil down to money with him. He said before he wants to play with his brothers, and that would be partly out of our control, partly in our control. If we brought his brothers here, there's a lot of moving parts. So, Jim, let me make something very simple for you. The Devils are not going to trade you Jack Hughes and Luke Hughes. No, they're just not.
This is fucking comical, dude.
Yeah. So I don't know if he just pretty much confirmed that Quinn is going to be on the Devils eventually, unless the Canucks turn into a Stanley Cup contender overnight, which is not going to happen.
They're more likely to blow things up and trade him
Oh,
to New Jersey.
The craziest part about that is, after that, Allvin is like, whoa, calm down there. We don't want to get charged for tampering. And then they just slowly started laughing. So you have your captain, one of the top two defensemen in the league, him and Makar, the two best defensemen, I think, by far in the league. Mm-hmm. You can debate who's number one. It's on and off. Kale had a better year this year, but Quinn did miss some time with the injury.
Really depends who you talk to.
Yeah, but they're both both top-tier elite defensemen, right? And, you kind of just drop a bombshell that he doesn't really want to be there anymore. And he wants to play with his brothers, which would be amazing. If can you imagine all three of them on a team? You have Jack, who's already a star in the league. He just has some health issues. And then Luke, I know he ended up getting hurt in game one for the Devils against the Hurricanes. He ended up coming back. I don't know how he came back because it looked like he hit his shoulder pretty hard, and he was grabbing it.
It's the same shoulder that he missed the beginning of the
season.
But
I thought he had a really good game, even when he came back. He's out tonight for game two, which really, really hurts the Devils. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I think he's going to be a star defenseman in this league too. I mean, why in the world would the Devils even think about trading them? They're just starting their contention window. A lot of bad luck, a lot of bad injuries. They're probably going to lead into a first-round exit this year, but they still have a really bright future ahead of them. And if Quinn is pretty much saying the only team I will play for is the New Jersey Devils, you don't have to give up a ton. I mean, you're going to give up a lot, but you have all the leverage in a trade talk, or you just wait till he's a free agent.
Right, and if the Canucks go the way of this offseason first, they're going to lose Brock Besser and be a free agency. He's already stated that he is unlikely to come back to the Canucks in the offseason. So
should have traded Pettersson when he had a lot of high value. There was an offer on the table from Buffalo Sabres. They were going to offer Bowenbauer and Cousins, probably plus more for Pettersson.
Yes.
And they turned it down.
They could have traded Besser for a first-round pick.
I don't know why they didn't trade him.
And they were like, "Oh, that's insulting." Okay, but what else is insulting is
you
not
let
getting
him
anything
walk.
back.
Like you were barely in contention to make the playoffs. If you were going to get bounced in the first round for the Jets. Just cut your losses. You can get a premium pick for him. A guy who's going to walk into free agency unless you overpay by a bunch of money. But it sounds like he just wants to move on.
He just doesn't want to be there. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how much money the Canucks offer him. Oh, maybe like if they like.
Oh,
Yeah,
if they offered him like $15 million a year, it's like, okay, I'll stay. But they're not going to offer him that.
No.
And, he'd be dumb to turn down that much money. But, yeah, I mean, I think it's in his best case, his best interest to move on.
Call me crazy. I think it's in the Canucks' best interest this summer to move on from Pettersson, move on from Quinn Hughes. I know it's crazy to say trade the second or the best defenseman
I don't
in the
think
league.
I don't think they blow it up this summer. I think it depends what happens with Rick Tocchet. If Tocchet decides he's going to come back, you just try to retool. They had a lot. There's so much drama with this team all the time. I mean, I was getting exhausted talking about the whole thing with JT Miller and Elias Pettersson, and then that finally ended, and we didn't talk about the Canucks really for a while, and then this happens again. But this is such a weird team because 2 years ago they won their division. They were in the second round.
That was last year.
Last year, yeah. But this time last year, they were in the playoffs. They took Edmonton to 7 games in the second round. Probably would have won that. Much better chance of winning that if Brock Besser plays. He ended up missing Game 7 with blood clots. Huge difference. He was playing amazing last playoffs.
He had a 4-goal game, I believe, against the Predators, and he was single-handedly carrying that team. When Pettersson was having the knee issues and wasn't playing good, guess who was there? Fucking Brock Besser.
And you would think that would be the time. It was like, okay, let's re-sign him now. I don't even know if they had contract talks. I don't know, but his name's been in trade rumors for years. I remember during our trade deadline, I was telling he might get traded, and I was called crazy, but they should have traded him.
They should have.
I don't think they could blow it up right this instant unless Tocchet walks and says, you know what, I'm going to go to a different organization that I think has a better chance of, winning now, and maybe the team, his message kind of got lost with the team just, due to the season they had last year. There are some interesting spots. I think Anaheim might be an interesting spot for him to go. I think they're in need of a coach that's going to hold them accountable, because according to the Ducks GM, Pat Verbeek, he said he expects them to be a playoff team next year. They had a lot of work to do to be a playoff team. But
the way they finished on the stretch, it's a possibility they finished over 500.
I think Rick Tocchet would be a big piece. I think if Rick Tocchet becomes like a free agent, I guess, if you want to call that for coaches, he's going to probably be the number one target for a lot of teams on the coaching market.
I could see a team like maybe the Rangers at least having an interview with a guy like Rick
Tocchet.
Tocchet.
Yeah, I mean, it depends if his relationship with JT Miller got affected at all, I'd say.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if that does...
That would be a good fit, too. I think that would be a really good fit, though, to the Rangers. I mean, anything, anywhere he'd go, he'd make them better.
Yeah, he would. And sticking over in the Eastern Conference, Lou Lamoriello is out as Islanders GM.
Well, they technically didn't fire him. They just said, don't come to work tomorrow because your keys aren't going to work.
Your contract is up, buddy.
Yeah. I mean, not too shocked. I thought Lou did do a good job his first few years on the island, back-to-back conference final appearances. Probably should have won at least one cup with those teams because I'm pretty confident in saying that if 2021 they lost to Tampa in 7, they would have had to play Montreal in the final, I think they probably would have beat them.
They would have.
But, I think he just kind of failed to adapt that roster anymore and just kept throwing the same thing at the wall, even though the league's gotten much faster. It's crazy to say it's only been 4 years since that, but I feel like the league's gotten way faster since then, and the Islanders have just gotten older and slower.
The Islanders, their rosters were built to win during those 2 Eastern Conference Finals appearances. And then the next year after, not as much success. I believe they were still a playoff team.
Yeah, this is the first year, I think, under Lou Lamoriello they did not make the playoffs.
And they've been a first-round exit the last 2 seasons. But you look at after that first year, be like, you know what, we're a first-round exit. We have Stanley Cup aspirations, so let's at least try to add some more speed. But they just kept with the same roster and just kept adding these older guys. Be like, we're going to impose our will physically, and we're going to grind the corners and get down and dirty.
Well, they brought in like a super old Zdeno Chara for his last couple years in the league. They brought in Parise. Parise actually was pretty good for them last year down the stretch.
Yeah.
No, that was 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Last year was Colorado.
He was good on Colorado, too.
He was great.
Kyle Palmieri, I really like him as a player, but he's getting up there in age, too. They ended up doing the right thing and actually trading Brock Nelson, which I'm kind of surprised they did. It sounded like they really didn't want to trade him.
Got a decent return back for him, too.
Yeah, I mean, dude's a good player. But
Anders Lee has been phenomenal for them. By the way, one of the
but he's
most
getting
underrated
he's getting
players.
older too, though.
He is getting up there in age. Brock Nelson is, who, by the way, another underrated 30-goal scorer for the Islanders too.
Yeah,
but
no, I mean, he's been a really good fit in Colorado too, just because I've watched games 1 and 2 so far for the Avalanche Stars. What a series that's been so far.
that series has been great.
And yeah, no, but Brock Nelson's been awesome. He's been all over the ice, especially playing like in a 3C role. I've been very impressed with his game.
Get Matt Barzal out the fuck of New York.
No, that he's like
I know they're fresh off an extension. He's just in his first year of a 7-8
he's not
year
going
deal.
anywhere. He's their best player.
Get the fuck out. You know what?
He's one of their only players that has a significant amount of speed. They just need to start getting younger.
There is a way that you can retool this roster.
Oh,
without
for
blowing
sure.
it
I
up.
mean, you have a top 5 goalie in the league in Ilya Sorokin, who had a bounce. He was kind of had a down year last year, but he bounced back this year. I thought he had a very good season. I think he was one of the only reasons why the Islanders even had a chance to make the playoffs this year. He had an excellent season.
Yeah, they were in there till the end.
I mean, so you have your franchise goaltender. You have a great piece on the offense to build around Matt Barzal. And then you also have, what's the defenseman's name?
Dobson.
Noah Dobson. He had a bit of a down year this year.
He also missed the last half of the year due to injury.
Yeah, but when he came back, he was pretty good.
Yeah.
But that was also when his first. That was also under Patrick Waugh. So they have some pieces to build around, but I think they need to start shipping out some of the vets. Because they still have value to other teams. It's just they shouldn't be in your top 6.
I do think it's kind of a mistake not trading Kyle Palmieri this year, unless you were gonna
what's
end
his
up
contract
resigning.
looking like?
He is a UFA this year. He was making $5 million, so he is not under contract.
Never mind. Yeah, kind of fumbled the bag
Yeah,
there.
I mean, you have Bo Horvat, who just got done with his first year of that extension. Anders Lee, who has one more year at $7 million.
I forgot they had Bo Horvat. I really don't like watching the Islanders. I find them a pretty boring team to watch.
I do think that at next year's deadline, Jean Gabriel Pageau, with one more year left at $5 million, he's a trade deadline asset if you guys are out of it. Now, of course, if they're contending, then you hold on to him. But Anthony Duclair,
Matt Martin playing games for them last year.
that is true.
Matt Martin has no place in the NHL in the year 2025.
I think their top 6 though isn't that bad, and their blue line is pretty good.
They
But
have some pieces to build around. They just need to start getting faster.
Yes, they need to fill out the bottom half of the team, and they need to kind of take the approach to just get faster in the bottom 6, because I think their top 6 though.
Well, it also helps if Matt Barzal's on the ice more often.
That
he
is
missed
also
a bunch of time this year too.
That is also true. And having Barzal and Noah Dobson on the ice for a full 80, 82 game season does help you a shit ton. So the team has potential. It's just whoever their next GM is, whoever it may be, just has to fill out the roster.
Okay, call me crazy here. So they have a lot of money to spend in free agency.
They do.
What if they just go crazy and say, Mitch Marner, you're an Islander?
I'm going to throw this out there. Maybe a Brock Besser.
Just so you know, people watch. I'm going to say this with every team for Mitch Marner. I know it's very unlikely he signs with the Islanders, but I mean that would be kind of like poetic justice, wouldn't that? For like they took John Tavares and they take Mitch Marner. Probably not going to happen.
Yeah,
but
for your newer viewers and listeners, we have a lot of sarcasm on this.
Yeah.
So don't take anything that we take seriously. But I do think that Brock Besser could be a decent fit. You get faster. But
Brock
also,
Besser, yeah, he would be a good fit too.
that Minnesota is the most likely team being from there. There's been rumors that he wants to play in Minnesota.
I mean, he's going to be a pretty sought-after player in
He
free
is.
agency. It's hard to find a really good scoring winger like that just available.
And I think the Islanders could go all out on one player and be like, here's not on Brock Besser giving 13 or 14, but on Marner, be like, here's an 8 by $14.5 million deal to come play on the top line with Matthew Barzal.
Mm-hmm.
And a team that already has a great blue line, has great goaltending. You have Patrick Waugh, who the players love in that locker room. Mark Barzal has had a renaissance ever since he got hired a couple years ago in that locker room. So, I mean, we'll see.
Well, he can play free. No
Right.
offense to, Barry Trotz is a legend, but I don't remember the name of the coach they had after Trotz moved on. But they were just playing a trap. They would score one goal and play defense the rest of the game. And, Matt Barzal's too good of a player to play in a system like that.
Even if they're playing in the system, Matt Barzal is one of the only guys that's like, you know what, just play your game and play fast, So
Yeah, because, during the 22-23 season, I believe, he only had 37 points in 58 games. And then last year with Patrick Waugh, he had an 80-point season. So
yeah.
and he was on track to have a good year this year, but he only played 30 games. But Barzal is a special talent. He still scored one of the best goals I've seen in a while. It's like during the 2021 season against the Sabres. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, the between the legs
Yeah,
goal.
it was a pretty wild goal. Like Matt Barzal's super talented, and yeah, they just need to build the team around him.
Let's hop in to the playoffs. We are 3 days into the playoffs. There's already been chaos. There's been physicality. There has been great goals. We saw on Monday night, we had every single game was a one-goal game. 2 of them went to overtime. You had another LA Kings versus Edmonton Oilers game
That game was crazy. I wasn't watching that game because I don't think many people were in the third period because the Kings were up by 3 goals.
They were. It was 4-1 going into the third, and that was after McDavid got a primary assist to Draisaitl,
With
who
like
scored a goal.
dying seconds of the second.
Yeah, with I think it was 4 or 6 seconds left or whatever. So I do want to stick in the East right now, and then we'll go to the West because Toronto, Ottawa's playing right now. They're playing game 2. Allmark struggled in game 1.
I mean, Ottawa struggled.
I mean, defensively, they didn't help him out at all.
Yeah.
And
you could tell it was most of their team's first playoff game.
They looked so energized and so hyped. They were just running there with like a chicken with their head cut off.
Oh, yeah. They were definitely too hyped.
Dumb penalties, and granted, some of them were soft. The refs were not great. But Toronto, they looked like the adults of the room, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
like,
that's how they should be handling the series.
Ottawa is the kid. This reference, I think it was What Chaos I was listening to, and this reference sums up game 1 perfectly. It's when there's a kid that's running around and has so much energy, and then the parent puts him to sleep. Ottawa's the kid, and Toronto is the parent, puts Ottawa to sleep. And, I mean, Toronto capitalized on every single opportunity that Ottawa gave them. And, of course, it ended up in a 6-2 blowout.
Yeah, no, just a 3-1. The Hurricanes just scored an empty net goal, so that's going to be final 3-1. Okay. Carolina's going to be up 2-0 in the series. New Jersey might kind of be dead in the water, but sticking with Toronto and Ottawa. Yeah, no, but I started watching the Ottawa-Toronto game, and then Toronto kind of started to pull away with it, and I kind of turned off of that. But, for Ottawa, I think this is a situation where, you're just happy to be here. And I think this is really, really important for them to put up a good fight and just get some experience, because I don't think anyone's expecting the Senators to go on a deep playoff run. I don't think many people are expecting them to win the series. I'm expecting it to be a little bit more competitive, but they have a lot of young players and a lot of guys with no playoff experience. I mean, this is Brady Tkachuk's first playoffs, Drake Batherson's first playoffs, Jake Sanderson, Dylan Cousins. They have Shane Pinto, a bunch of players that have never played a playoff game.
Most of the team has never played in the playoffs before. They're down 2-0 right now to Toronto, and shots are 10-8 in favor of Ottawa at the moment. John Tavares and Morgan Rielly with the goals for Toronto. So they're already down 2-0, Ottawa is. And Toronto, legitimately, I know it's Ottawa, and I know it's a wild card team, but a lot of people were like, maybe Ottawa could upset Toronto, and Toronto is punching the fuck out of Ottawa right now.
I mean, I think I think the Toronto just has that, the history of blowing first round. So I think maybe that's why you saw a little bit more talk about Ottawa potentially upsetting them. But I've been saying this for a while. This Toronto team's different, and I think they're going to rise to the occasion. And don't play with your food. Just kill them.
And that's exactly what they're doing. They're not fucking.
I mean, there's still a lot of hockey to be played left.
Oh, of course. I mean, they could be down.
They were up 3-1 against Montreal a few years ago, and I still don't know how they lost that series. I still don't know how.
And they fucking blew it.
Yeah.
They blew that. So this series has been it's been exciting to watch. And here's an interesting set that I found out. So going back to Linus Ullmark, and he has 10 career starts in the playoffs in his career. 6 of those he has allowed 4+ goals, and 2 of those he has allowed 6 goals.
So he got benched last year in the playoffs for Swayman.
Yeah, he did.
And Swayman never gave him the net back. And that's why he's in Ottawa.
And the year before, I'm going to give it a little bit of benefit of the doubt.
He was
to
playing.
Ullmark.
He shouldn't have been playing.
He should not have been playing hurt. He was playing legitimately on one limb. It almost looked.
He did make a couple bonehead decisions that directly led to goals. Mm-hmm. I remember one. I think he was playing a bit behind the net. He just completely misplayed the puck and
wide
easy
open
goal for the Panthers.
How about Carolina versus New Jersey? They're also playing game 2 right now. Actually, the game just ended.
Yep.
The game was at 6 o'clock Eastern, a little bit of an earlier one, but the Canes are in control. They're up 2-0 like we all legitimately expected. New Jersey was up 1-0 going into the second. They looked good in the first.
They put up a bigger fight than I thought they were going to. I said I wasn't going to watch this game on Sunday, but I didn't really have much to do, and I was just cleaning up around the house, and I had it on in the background, and man, the Hurricanes kicked the crap out of the Devils in game one. It was not a remotely close game. I know New Jersey ends up getting one on the board, but other than that, New Jersey really didn't have any scoring opportunities. Markstrom took his own player out. Like, Carolina just beat them to a pulp.
At one point,
the only reason it wasn't like 6-1 or something like that is because Jacob Markstrom had an outstanding game.
He stood on his head, and that's why the Devils got him, but they didn't expect the team in front of him to play that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're injured to hell and back right now. I mean, Luke Hughes was out tonight, and
Brendan
Dillon. Jack Hughes is also – I thought their season was dead when Jack Hughes got hurt, but they did put up more of a fight tonight, but I think they're donezo.
Yeah, and going back to New Jersey, I had this game in 5 games, and I think they'll get one in New Jersey, but I can see Game 5 going back to Raleigh being a 3-1 series.
Yeah, they're going to put up a fight. I think they'll get one at home.
Yeah.
Just because, they have a good team. It's just they're going to go down swinging, but Carolina's locked in on their game. Players aren't making mistakes. Everyone's honed in on the system, and New Jersey's going to have to work really hard to get scoring chances because Carolina just suffocates teams.
During game 1, at one point, towards the end of the second period, I'm looking at the shot clock. They had
it was
a shot a minute at one point. It was like 36 shots with like 3 minutes left in the second. I'm like, dude, this team can get to 55 shots on goal alone.
Yeah, no, it was ridiculous. Like I said, the only reason why the game was not much because they were having a lot of good scoring chances too. But Jacob Markstrom played really, really well.
These weren't shots from the point or from the boards. These were shots like we're gonna get one from the top of the circles and then there's
they
gonna be a
were
rebound.
Good scoring chances. Yeah, just Markstrom played really well. At one point, the Devils were down to 4 defensemen. Yeah. That doesn't really help their case either. Hughes did end up toughing it out and coming back. I thought he had a pretty good game, but they just could not get anything going offensively. They could not just break Carolina's defensive system. It was just a really bad game by the Devils.
Every time New Jersey got the puck in their own zone, they flipped it into the neutral zone, and it was just in the possession of Carolina again.
Yep.
And they did a better job in game 2. I will give them credit for that.
They were doing a better job blocking shots, but Carolina, that's their strong suit is they do not let up pressure.
No.
And you have to earn every opportunity against them. And there are ways to break a high pressure system like that. It's just when you're constantly on the retreat and they're not really getting the time they need to have offense, you kind of have to play a perfect game.
And you also have to capitalize on any
especially when Carolina is not making mistakes because they haven't really made any mistakes.
No, that entire team looks locked. And Stankoven looks phenomenal. He had 2 goals.
Oh, yeah, that one goal he had was a beautiful shot.
It was a perfect
I was
shot.
on the phone with my dad, and I was watching the game, and I was like, oh. But as soon as he got into the slot and he passed it, I was like, oh, shit. And then he scored. I was like, because I do that. I don't know if you noticed I do that at the Sabres games. Whenever I go uh-oh.
No, I haven't.
I do that. You can ask Chris. I do that all the time when there's a really good scoring chance. I go uh-oh, and then usually the puck's in the net. That was kind of my uh-oh moment. That was a nasty shot by Stankoven though.
He had all day. He got it past the defender and just went top corner over Markstrom. That was a ridiculous shot. So he's had a great series. This series, I'm expecting to go no later than 5 games.
Yeah, I had him in 6, but I didn't think New Jersey would play. They have even more injuries, and they just they need to just get ready for next year.
Washington versus Montreal, our next series in the Eastern Conference. Game 1 was last night. Ovechkin not only scored the first goal of the game, but he also scored his first playoff overtime goal.
That was crazy to me. That was his first ever overtime goal in the playoffs.
There's a lot of things that Ovi has already done in the league. That wasn't one of them until last night.
Yeah, I wasn't watching that game because it was a little bit later in the day. I had stuff going on, and I saw Washington was up 2-0. I was like, oh, they're probably just going to take care of business. And I saw the game went to overtime. I was like, oh, shit. Montreal is putting up a bigger fight than the Senators and the Devils.
Yeah, it was like a 2-0 lead, I think, going into the third. No, it wasn't 2-0 going into the third, was it?
I think it was.
Caulfield scored.
I heard Nick Suzuki had an excellent game, too.
Nick Suzuki played a phenomenal game.
That kid is so good. That kid is so good.
Such an underrated two-way center, too.
I think, were we talking about this yesterday with Seattle? because I think I mentioned we were talking about Vegas and how like they were so good right away because they made like 95% of the moves they made were the right ones. The one major fuck up they had was trading Nick Suzuki for Max Pacioretty.
I mean, they still got a cup out of it.
But Max Pacioretty didn't contribute to the cup.
No, he didn't.
They traded him for nothing.
Imagine if they had Nick Suzuki though.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if he developed the same way, but that kid's disgusting. He just keeps getting better.
And he didn't
like Marty St. Louis unlocked him.
He didn't have this exponential like developmental path. It was just linear.
Well, these last couple of years, it was exponential.
Yeah.
Like he's gotten so much better, especially down the stretch for Montreal. He was playing that whole line with Caulfield and Slavkovsky. They were like top 5 line in the league.
That line is so disgusting.
Yeah.
And now you add Ivan Demidov to that top 6.
Yeah, no, that team's gonna be disgusting. They've got a bright future ahead of them. Montreal. They were just ahead of schedule. This team reminds me a lot of the 2016-2017 Toronto Maple Leafs when they first got Austin Matthews. Team, no expectations, and then they sneak into the playoffs and give Washington, funnily enough, the same team, a really tough run for their money.
Toronto was up 2-1 in that series too, I believe, as well. So now I think Montreal will be a tough out for Washington, but I think Washington will come out on top. But Washington, they looked good yesterday still too, and they got off to a fast start. You get a power play goal.
Sam Montembeault had a very good game, too.
Sam Montembeault played great for them. And it's so huge that Washington got Logan Thompson back just in time for the playoffs to start last night. So I'm looking for Washington to do some damage. But, again, Montreal, they're not going to be a easy out. They
have literally no pressure on them. They're just there. Like, literally, they were the one team, you could say, out of all these teams in the playoffs that literally nobody picked to make the playoffs. They have zero pressure on them at all, and they're going to give Washington everything they can.
Yeah, and I do expect Washington to probably end up in the Eastern Conference Finals if it's not.
We'll see. I mean, I don't think if they end up playing Carolina, I don't think that's going to be an easy series either. But if Carolina keeps playing the way they are,
but Carolina does have the easiest path to at least the Eastern Conference Finals and probably to the Cup, depending on what happens.
We'll see. There's a lot of stuff that could happen.
Yeah.
I mean, they've only played 2 games, so.
Quick time out before we get back to the episode, you beauties. As someone like myself who's into fitness and needs a little bit of an extra boost before a lift, or maybe I need just a little bit of energy before my next hockey game, and even when doing pod stuff to bring you guys the best content possible, W always has me covered. Whether you needed to stay awake at work or need a little bit of a jolt to get you through the day, W will always provide you that spark you need. There's no sugar, no crash, no artificial flavors or artificial dyes, just flavored caffeine. 150 milligrams of caffeine and 1 serving, which is equivalent to 2 cups of coffee. Make sure to head over to w.gg and use code CFB Pod for 10% off any order. With the Western Conference, let's start off with Edmonton and LA because I think that series is going to be, honestly, probably the most electric out of the
game
board.
1 was insane. Like we said, like neither one of us were really watching it at the end because they were up by 3 goals in the third, and then all of a sudden, and that goal McDavid scored yesterday. Oh,
that's like I'm putting the team on my fucking back.
I mean, that's what he's going to need to do. Especially Evan Bouchard had a horrid game. Let me correct that. He was pretty okay offensively. Defensively, worst player on the ice last night.
Stuart Skinner getting back to the locker room probably punched him in the face.
I mean, Stuart Skinner didn't have the greatest game either, but Bouchard did not do him any favors, especially on, I think it was the second goal. I would say there was 2 goals that you could probably blame on Bouchard. The second one was just unexcusable. We're just blind pass behind the net right in front, right in the slot to a wide open Kings player. That cannot happen.
He could have just rimmed it around the boards.
Literally anything else. Anything else.
Pinned it up against the boards.
Literally anything else. You're literally better off taking a delayed game penalty than doing that. I mean, I don't know. The Kings' power play is pretty damn good, so.
He gave Kempe the easiest goal of a lifetime.
Yeah.
Now, Kempe did have to make a deke around Skinner, but still, though, that for an NHL player,
you can't leave any player like that wide open in front of the net. Even a preseason game, let alone a playoff game.
Yeah.
I mean, McDavid and Draisaitl put the team on their back. They're going to have to do more of that, and I think Edmonton will make some adjustments. I think this is going to be a 7-game series no matter what. Mm-hmm. I think, honestly, it's a coin flip on who wins the series.
This last night showed me how resilient Edmonton can be and how fucking good McDavid and Draisaitl are.
Mm-hmm. They can take over
and
like they did last year.
For LA, They didn't let McDavid tying the game, and even the Oilers coming back,
That
McDavid.
goal they scored to win the game was kind of nutty. Like, I don't know what.
That was a knuckler puck. I don't think Skinner saw it at all.
No, he did not see because fucking, I think it was
Fogle.
literally jumping in the air to get out of the way of the puck.
And that puck, like.
It was going so slow.
When I first saw the goal this morning, I'm like, oh, like this is probably like a snipe, like And on the replay that I saw, the puck was a knuckler, and it just like found its way
there's
back to the net.
Stuart Skinner did not see that puck.
No, like the delay from everybody too, from when the shot.
Well, the puck was literally going in slow motion, and
was.
because Fogle jumped into the air, so he didn't block the shot. Skinner did not see it. I don't know. It was the best unintentional screen I've ever seen.
I would have loved to be in that atmosphere. That place was fucking rocking when that goal happened.
Well, they were probably all sick to their stomach, like. Literally just before then, because they were up 4-1, and now all of a sudden it's 5-5, and McDavid was looking unstoppable.
The Kings forgot for 21 minutes of game time who was on the opposing side.
I mean, McDavid is just that good.
That is true. For the first 39 minutes, they were frustrating McDavid. At the end of the first period, Draisaitl was getting chippy after he got the puck poked away from his stick to end the first period. Got a little couple slashes, said some words. Second period was a little bit of the same, and then they let up in the last minute of the game. McDavid finally took over. He was creating opportunities. Sean Draisaitl on the seam.
I still can't get over that goal he scored. That was disgusting.
The tying goal?
Yeah. Oh.
That game, dude, I can't believe McDavid almost brought them back. From Stuart Skinner not having the greatest game, Bouchard not having the greatest game. And granted, now when you have Connor Brown and Podkolzin, and no offense to those guys, but when they're on your first and second line, you're not doing so hot.
Another thing that the Oilers really cannot take penalties.
No.
Because the Kings' power play is vicious.
Yeah.
They run 5 forwards on power play 1, which is kind of insane.
Mm-hmm.
But they all have really good shots. Like Kevin Fiala had a really nice power play goal yesterday. They got to stay out of the box.
By the way, Kuzmenko had the first goal of the game. Beautiful, beautiful play.
Yeah, he should have scored on that wraparound, too.
Mm-hmm.
Skinner ended up making a good save on that play.
I thought he had that wraparound. I got up in my seat, and I was like, this is about to be a 2-0 game, and it wasn't.
Yeah, it was a good save by Skinner.
Yeah, it was. It was. But this series is going to be electric. I think this is going to be different from the prior 3 seasons.
I agree. This is probably the best Kings team they've had. I mean, we debated a lot about this series. Like, I literally think this is a coin flip series because if McDavid plays like he did in Game 1, he's going to steal him at least a couple games.
Yes, and for both sides, you have to be feeling good about yesterday.
If I'm the Kings, I feel really good because that was kind of like when McDavid tied the game, I was like, oh, shit. Like, we played the best we could, and we still can't slow him down. You end up winning anyway. I think that's a really big morale win for the locker room.
They could have tucked and just went into overtime and gave it the
Oilers
Oilers another chance.
Yeah.
But they were like, nah, fuck that. If this game is gonna end, it's ending in regulation, and they did it.
Yep. No, it's a big morale boost for the Kings locker room because now they know they can do it.
If you're the Oilers, you have to be feeling good because you came back. But are you feeling?
If I'm the Oilers, I'm pissed.
But also, are you feeling iffy because you're like, well, no, there's no secondary scoring. It was all McDavid and Draisaitl.
Yeah, I wouldn't feel good, honestly, if I'm the Oilers because unless McDavid goes God mode every game, I don't know what you're going to do. I mean, obviously, they need to clean things up defensively, and I think they will make adjustments. You know, yesterday, you definitely saw them missing Matthias Ekholm. Skinner needs to play a little bit better. I don't think he necessarily was that bad yesterday.
He also didn't have a ton of help.
But you can't just expect McDavid to go Super Saiyan and carry the team on his back. He's good enough to do that every once in a while. But we can't do that in a 7-game series.
You can't do
every
that
game.
every single game in the Stanley Cup Playoffs because you are not going to go
I'm really interested to see what adjustments they make in Game 2 because I think that's a must-win for the Oilers.
It is. You cannot go back to Edmonton down 2-0. And I know LA wasn't great on the road. I think they had like a sub-500 record, something close to it on the road. We have Edmonton was 25-13-3 at home, and then LA was 17-19-5 on the road. But like still though, like you can't go back to Rogers Place down 2-0 against an LA team that's defense is suffocating. We saw last night, halfway through the second period, shots were like 9-6 in favor of LA. But it didn't feel that way though. The game felt more exciting than what the shots posed halfway through the game at that little.
Like I said, the only saving grace for the Oilers, and this happened last year in the Stanley Cup Final, where the Oilers looked overwhelmed in the first 3 games, and McDavid said, sit down, guys, let me do my thing. And he's good enough to do it, and I think Draisaitl is good enough to help a lot with that. We'll see. Game 2 is going to be a very interesting game. But now I think we should move on to another really, really good series so far. That has been Colorado and Dallas. Man, what a game 2 last night. I was expecting a big response from Dallas because I don't think they had a great game 1. I don't think they were horrible. I mean, Mackenzie Blackwood did have a pretty good game, but the score makes it a little bit worse than it was because I believe Colorado did score 2 or 3 empty net goals.
Yeah, they scored 2. The 4th and 5th goal are both empty netters.
Yeah, so closer game than the score sheet says.
But game 1, though, I felt like Colorado got every single bounce imaginable.
Oh, they were controlling more of the play.
That fucking soccer kick goal.
Yeah, that they can never do that again if they tried.
I'm not gonna lie, when that happened, if you were a Dallas fan, you have to be sitting there and be like, there's no way this entire game is gonna end up like this, and it did.
Yeah.
And granted, Dallas looked faster than not Dallas. Colorado looked faster.
Yeah, they
than
looked
Dallas.
better. Yeah, and I was expecting a big response from Dallas last night, and Colorado played a very good game too. It was an excellent game. That was one of the most entertaining overtimes I've seen in a while in a playoff game. It was like almost a 10-minute stretch with no whistles, just teams going. It felt like a regular season 3-on-3 overtime game, just back and forth with chances. I thought Colorado did drive more of the play, but Dallas ends up getting a huge win.
They win a crucial game too, heading back to Ball Arena in Colorado, which is gonna what's yesterday, Monday. So
I think they play tomorrow.
I thought they don't play until Thursday.
Oh, I think that series might be every other night.
Is it every other night? Yeah, they play tomorrow at 9:30.
Yeah, the scheduling's all over the place.
Yeah,
That's also 1-0 Florida.
Okay, so Florida, yeah, we didn't cover that because they didn't play.
Yeah, they haven't played a
but
game
they're
yet.
playing right now.
Yeah.
Going back to Dallas and Colorado, Blackwell with the overtime game winner. Rantanen, though, he needs to wake up. He has no points. He's also
Kind
minus
of took
2.
an iffy penalty yesterday at the end of the third period, which Colorado had a couple good scoring chances on. It wasn't the greatest call. He got a holding call. He did have his arm wrapped around him, but that's kind of when you tend to go in a playoff game. But
Kind of soft.
you still can't do it.
No, technically the ref can call it if they feel like it's illegal per se.
Yeah, I mean it wasn't. I think 9 times out of 10 of the playoffs they don't call that, but
No.
the ref, that was the 1 time out of 10 that they're going to call it. So. But yeah, Mikko Rantanen, I mean, he hasn't even been on the team for that long. He's still adjusting to his new team, and it's got to be really weird for him playing against the Avalanche in the first round playoff series.
I would feel good if I'm Dallas, though, because your depth has been producing.
Well, I mean, Jason Robertson is not traveling with the team to Colorado, which is big. Miro Heiskanen sounds like he could be back any game.
It's looking like it feels like Miro Heiskanen won't be back until game 4 at least.
Yeah, he's skating though.
Yes, which is good news. At least if you can get Miro back.
That's big. I'd say that's bigger than Robertson.
That is bigger than Robertson. Your forward depth is already ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the blue line is kind of lacking, but Harley has done a pretty good job at holding it back down there. I believe he had a goalie out last night as well. So,
yeah, no, but getting Miro Heiskanen back would be huge.
That would be huge.
This is a game we both expected to go 7 series. I still have that full expectation that's going to go 7 series. This is another one I think it's a coin flip on who wins the series. They're both excellent, excellent teams. I still stand by this should not have been a first-round matchup.
No.
This is probably the best matchup in all of the first round, and it has lived up to the hype so far. I have not been disappointed. That was a really, really good game too last night. I stayed up till 1 a.m. to watch overtime. So
how about Landy? He was skating warm-ups. Of course, he did not play last night. In comes Miles Wood instead. But I have a feeling game 3, we're gonna see Landy in Colorado, and I think I am so glad this wasn't Landy being scratched, being like, you know what, something doesn't feel right. This was just precautionary. Let him at least touch the ice in warm-ups. And then, of course, game 3 on your home ice. He's fucking back for his first game since 2022.
that building's going to be going crazy.
But if you're Colorado, though, you bring back Landy for game 3 for, the vibes and, the crowd's going to go fucking wild for his first game back?
Yeah. Just one more player I want to touch on for the Colorado, and then we can move on to the next series. One player I think that has been playing really well, and I think might end up being an X factor is Valery Nichushkin. excellent game too last night. He was driving play so much, and it's so good to have him as a second line option. Because that first line that Colorado has is great with McKinnon and Natchez, but he's really good on that second line at driving. He had an excellent game last night.
Nichushkin always seems to show up in the playoffs.
Yeah,
and he does.
That
for
killed
Colorado.
their season last year when he got suspended.
Oh, it did. They possibly would have moved on to the Western Conference
Well,
Finals.
I remember watching that because did we do a live stream of
did do
that
a
game?
stream
Like
for
they
it.
were showing the bench even like before the game started. Like this looked dead.
Imagine being that locker room and Nichushkin is on morning skate prior to the game at like 11 a.m. whatever. And at 5:45, 6 o'clock, when you guys are just all like in the locker room or doing your whatever your routine, Jared Bednar.
And he was playing really well,
He
too.
was leading the entire NHL in points in the playoffs. And Bednar brings in, he's like, listen, we have to have a talk, everybody. Let's get in the locker room, or however they did it, right? Or whenever they're getting ready for warm-ups. They're like, guys, we have unfortunate news. Unfortunately,
because he had to leave immediately. He
did.
had to be away from the team.
So, of course, Bednar or whoever broke the news to the guys, and McKinnon in an interview post-game said they found out like less than an hour before.
I mean, everyone found out right before the game. It was a shock. I've never seen something like happen like that.
That was nuts, and it's so nice to have him back for a playoff run, and glad that he's back, and he's healthy and everything. Let's move on to the next series, Winnipeg versus St. Louis. This series has. I know Winnipeg is up 2-0 in the series right now, but this series has been very physical. These teams are both getting 45 hits a night, which is nuts. St. Louis has not been a tough out, and Game 1 and Game 2 were electric in Winnipeg.
Yeah, if anything, I think these two games are very good for the Jets because that was the biggest thing going in is like, are they going to get Connor Hellebuyck from the playoffs from when they went to the conference final, or playoff Connor Hellebuyck from the last couple of years when he shit the bed? And so far, he's looked really good. I know he had a shaky game one, but he was really good last night. I think St. Louis is giving him a lot they can handle, but I think Winnipeg is rising to the occasion, which is a really good sign for that team.
I think Hellebuyck was nervous in Game 1. And granted, the shots that St. Louis has been scoring have been they have been picking corners.
Yeah, St. Louis is playing well. I mean, they're giving Winnipeg all they can handle.
They are. And
I mean, Game 1 looked like it was going to go to overtime. Then Kyle Connor, on a really nice set play, ends up scoring a goal very late in the third to win the game.
From none other than Mark Scheifele.
That was a great play design. I love that.
That was great.
Yeah.
And this Winnipeg team we saw in Game 1, they could win in a scoring 3 goals. Holy fuck, I can't talk. But they got
they can also keep pace in a shootout.
Exactly. They ended up doing that. They got the 5th goal via empty net late in that game. And then they can also beat you 2-1 with Hellebuyck making crucial saves. And by the way, the St. Louis' only goal yesterday by Jimmy Snuggie.
Yeah.
Snuggie is bro's nickname. I fucking love that. He had an absolute rip. He had a rip. The dude's shot is unreal. And in the playoffs, as a 20-year-old playing in your first career playoff game, second career playoff game, and only having 7 or 8 career NHL games under your belt, play to your strengths. He did it with that shot. He got found wide open, top of the left half schmarks, and ripped it home. And of course, beating Vezina caliber goaltender. Well, about to win his 3rd Vezina.
Yeah, he should win the Vezina this year.
Yeah, Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor have been dialed in. That's what you want to see from Winnipeg. Just the stars to really show up, and they have so far between the 3.
They have so far. I think this is really good for Winnipeg. About as good as a start you can ask for.
Vegas versus Minnesota. And it's hard on the East Coast to watch this series.
Yeah, I didn't really watch Game 1 because it was so late. I mean,
but
Minnesota did keep it close.
I watched the reruns of it at work on the background on ESPN Plus, and that game was physical.
Yeah.
Minnesota gave them everything Vegas could handle, and Tomas Hertl had a ridiculous snipe to open up the scoring in that game, right over the right shoulder of Gustafsson. Minnesota might end up giving Vegas a run for their money in this series. It might go past 5 games I thought.
I mean, I'm probably not going to watch Game 2 tonight because it starts at 11 o'clock.
Yeah,
so.
Fuck that shit. I got to – listen, okay, I'm sorry to Vegas and Minnesota fans if you guys are listening or watching this episode.
It's going to be tough for the Minnesota fans because that's 10 p.m. start for them. They're in Central Time, so that's a late game for them.
I'm going to be 100% honest with you. If there was the Sabres were in the playoffs and for some reason I was – it's like a 10 o'clock start time, for example – local time, I don't care if I have to be up at 6 a.m. I'll watch that.
I get it, but it's still tough.
It is very tough. That has to be tough. Oh,
yeah.
my God. But this entire series for Minnesota, at least on the road, has to be tough. I mean, as a fan, having to be up until like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning to watch your team, as a Wild Card 2 team play against.
I mean, but the travel goes both ways because then Vegas has to go to Minnesota, so that's a long plane ride both ways.
Yeah, that is true. But this series, though, I'm expecting Minnesota to steal a couple games. Kaprizov had a good game. Eriksson Ek had a good game. And tonight you have, I believe it's Rossi playing on the fourth fucking line. Are you kidding me, Minnesota? Whatever. But Zeev Buium, he had a pretty decent debut.
Is it Buium or Bium?
Buium.
Okay.
Buium had a pretty decent debut. I guess he didn't have a great third period or something like that. But give the kid a break. It was his first career NHL game, which is ridiculous to have your first career NHL game being a Stanley Cup playoff game, which is mind-boggling. That the game has to be running so fast for you. Like, imagine your first shift. You don't even get to sit there and like have a draw. It's like a change on the fly, and you're just in play immediately.
I mean, you got to rip the Band-Aid off at some point.
That's true. I mean, of course, you get very valuable experience in the playoffs, even if you're going to be a first-round exit. Going into your rookie year next year, things might be just a little bit slower for you because you get the fast pace of playing the Stanley Cup contender in Vegas. You get to play top 4 minutes.
I mean, it's really good for him, and I think for the team to see what they got out of the kid. First game, high-pressure situation, and see how he handles it. And for you get your feet wet right away in a high, intense game. Like, yeah, welcome to the NHL, buddy.
If I could watch this series more, like actual live,
I'll try to watch it when it goes back to Minnesota, but it's just tough. Like 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night that's a tough watch.
Like if I'm off and the game's at 10, 11 o'clock, I'll stay up and watch it if I'm off the next day because I don't have to be up at 6 in the morning for work. But I mean, I at least want to catch a couple games. I know at work I can watch reruns at my desk and just kind of have it on the background while I do actual work.
Yeah, I watched the highlights. Like I watched the highlights today for Edmonton and LA because I didn't get a chance to watch that game. But I'll probably watch I'm not gonna watch the highlights of the Hurricanes Devils. I know it. Yeah.
I mean, we know that the Hurricanes are dominating
if
the series.
Toronto and Ottawa end up making it close, maybe, but. I believe that score is still 2-0. Let me double check.
Yeah, it's still 2-0. Ottawa has a power play opportunity at the moment.
The shots are 21-10.
In favor of Toronto or Ottawa?
Ottawa.
Jesus Christ. They are peppering Toronto.
Yeah, so
Florida
Stars is having a good game so far.
Florida and Tampa are both. It's still a 1-0 game. Tampa does have a power play.
Very early in that game.
Very, very early. That series is going to be electric, as we all know. That's going to end it for today's episode. If you guys enjoy all of our content, all of our socials are down below, as well as the subscribe button. If you guys are listening on Apple and Spotify, head over to our Instagram and YouTube for more exclusive content. And we'll see you guys in our next episode.